This content is for entertainment and educational purposes only. This video is brought to you by First Detachment Nutrition. Battle tested, expert formulated. Use discount code AB10 at checkout for 10% off. What's up, everyone?
How's it going?
Hey.
Well, evidently I'm an idiot and set
It's less than me.
Yeah, I set this to premiere at midnight. So hopefully we have some people that show up. This is what happens when you're
still waiting from last night.
That's what happens.
What Marty says, he's waiting for yesterday to come.
I was more.
You're living in the past, Marty.
I was more concerned with my high day yesterday than I was making sure this was scheduled properly. I haven't, it's been weird on prep. I haven't been hungry. Yeah, of course, you got me eating a fair amount of food. I was a little hungry.
It's
a little
starting
hungry going into the high day, but I don't know. I just don't have much of an appetite anymore.
What's up, Nick?
What's up? Oh, wait, I can't see you, Ryan. You got your camera off? So black.
No, he's good.
Must
I
be
think
me.
that's you, man.
I'll leave and I'll re-enter.
Nick, people were complaining about your mic last week, so this week pulled a little closer. We can never get yours dialed in right.
It's weird. It's either I'm breathing too heavily and it's too loud. Or it's like,
we can always
Can't win.
We can always tell when you're balking because the breathing gets heavier.
Yeah. I can guess your hematocrit.
Oh, I'm about to start EQ, so it'll probably shoot up a little bit.
Yeah.
It'll start on Monday. First time using it, I'm excited. Really excited. Yeah.
EQ seems to be the go-to for bodybuilders as their primary anabolic. It's the only thing that makes my hemoglobin and hematocrit go through the roof. Nothing else seems to do that. So I can't do it.
Gave me a appetite boost that I probably didn't need.
One second, I'm just going to re-enter, guys. This is a little bit funny.
Okay.
I'll just...
Oh, there goes Nick with all his background noise.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Well, we have 40 people watching the live, and most people catch it on the replay anyway, so it's whatever. Kurt looks like he's having camera problems. Off to a good start today.
I can see you now, Ryan.
Okay.
All right, we got Kurt's anonymous thing here. So, Amy, you took umbrage with the breast implant discussion last week. What were the mistakes?
It was not so much mistakes. It was just I don't think there's any implant size that should not be respected, and it just varies so much person to person. Oh my gosh. I can go get a couple to show you guys if you give me just 1 second. I'll be right
Sure.
there.
I'm
Very
also
interesting.
It'll help a lot. I can show and tell. Just 1 second.
So I need a breast reduction. I don't need the breast implants.
Yeah.
Good. Everybody,
Okay.
I'm just going to make a video and get it over with.
Kurt?
Talk about
What's up?
my.
What's up, Kurt?
What's going on, Kurt?
What's up?
I'm just going to make a video this week and get it over with and talk about my nipples. Why one's different than the other.
All right.
So everybody will stop fucking asking me.
No, they're not going to stop. They'll comment on that video.
See, this is an important conversation because even though it's mostly men watching, like you probably have wives and girlfriends who have thought about getting a breast augmentation. But the big thing that everybody gets wrong with implants is thinking that one size fits all or that a certain CC size is going to equal a certain result in all people. And that's just not true. And the main reason for that is that your implant should fit the base width of your breast. And that is going to be very person dependent. Like these two implants are the same CC size, but they obviously are much different base diameters and they also project differently. So these are both 350 cc implants, but they're going to look totally different in someone because this one is narrower and is going to project more, whereas this one is a lot wider and it projects a lot less. It's hard to show without having. And same thing here. Like these are both 450 cc implants. Where is it? Yep. but they look totally different. And this shows it better. So this one, oh, the lighting's bad, is going to project a lot versus this one not projecting much at all.
Yeah, I can see.
You know, so the person who fits this breast implant, this one would look really bad in them because it's way too wide. It would overfill their breast and be like way too wide. If I put them like back to back, you can kind of see it. Like, see how much like overlay there is on that top one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it's way taller essentially, but they project differently. So, and then, I mean, here's a 650. I mean, this is a huge implant next to this 450. So you see again, the difference in how tall it is.
I want to make you the only one so we can see you.
Yeah. You know, see how much taller that 650 is, but they basically project almost the same. So the person who is a narrow breast, right, but wants a lot of volume is going to be this one, whereas somebody with a much wider breast, here again, like here's that really tall but flatter one. These are both 450 implants, but this one would fill a breast differently. And that's why, like, you can't judge a person based on their implant size, because you need the size you need, because it has to fit in the base of the breast without sticking out to the side or coming too far into the midline. You know, that's the problem. Like, you get a lot of like side boob on people where the implants stick out to the side, because if you put an implant that's way too wide in somebody, it's going to stick out to the side. That's terrible.
We lost your audio.
It's all that big.
After side.
Yeah.
There we go.
Back down.
Okay.
We get closer.
Is it
Interesting.
Is it true that like the what's it called, the pliability of the skin has a role in it too? Like, women who have stretchier skin can get bigger implants, whereas women who have tighter skin can't get quite as big of an implant?
Not necessarily. It's more about, I mean, yes and no. I mean, obviously someone who has like a lot of laxity in their breast, you can obviously fill out that volume more with the implant versus someone who is very flat chested. Their skin's not going to stretch. It's just like, you know, like having a baby or being pregnant, like the skin is going to stretch slowly over time. But if you tried to like shove all that volume in right away, it would be a challenge. You can push it a little, and the person will just be much more uncomfortable for a longer period of time. The problem becomes if you have somebody who has a lot of laxity and they definitely need a breast lift, well, what somebody's going to try and do is just fill up all that laxity with a really big implant, and it's not going to sit well. Like it's going to be saggy. That person probably needs a lift and then a much smaller implant, you know, to really just make their breast the right shape.
Interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I imagine it depends a lot on body frame too. Like,
yeah, that's also,
it does. And that's, yeah, that's kind of that base width of the implant. You know, you see, and that's why, like in competitors, I brought that up in my comment, like someone who has really broad shoulders can kind of handle or absorb more implant. It's almost surprising that you'll put a big implant in someone and it'll look, you know, smaller than a small implant on a very petite person, just because of how their body is able to kind of absorb implant, and how much chest width they have is really where that becomes a good natural looking breast augmentation of any size, even well into that 600cc category, or a very augmented look on someone who, you know, is trying to push it and they're very tiny framed.
Yeah. Interesting.
She had me at 600 cc's.
Yeah.
So that's the big guy. That's more than a handful, Kurt.
Oh, I was referring to testosterone.
That's the chase dose. Now, do you guys get a lot of men come in for stuff like gyno surgery and things like that?
We do. I mean, the most male competitors that we see are usually here for either gynecomastia or a little bit of lipo. The things that you have had. We, you know, tummy tucks rarely, mostly because, you know, it's men's skin integrity tends to be better. Even those who've lost a lot of weight, we can usually get away with just doing some kind of like aggressive liposuction to get that skin to kind of contract. There's actually great studies on just liposuction alone and how much skin contracture you can get with that if you do the right kind of technique to kind of help bring that skin in. I mean, just kind of that damage causes it to pull in closer. So if you have just a little bit of laxity, you know, we can do some technologies and other things to kind of bring the skin in as much as possible, especially on men. But with gynecomastia is the big one.
Yeah, I'm a victim of bad gynecomastia surgery I had done 20 years ago. I got to go back and get one side cleaned up, and then the guys love to look at my nipples and talk about my nipples, but I have one that collapsed. So I had the surgeon try to fix it, try to repair it, and it collapsed again. It didn't take. So
Was it a general surgeon or were you going to a plastic
the
surgeon?
first time I went to a general surgeon, so that was the mistake.
That's why. Yeah.
Yep, I was being cheap. So lesson learned. That was a long time ago. The guy that fixed me up the last time did a good job, but he only did my left side, and I got to go back and I got a little like a marble size piece of my right side that's protruding now, and it looks really awful. I wish I got it done before my prep, but it's too late now.
Yeah.
What are some things guys should look for with gyno surgery?
I think the big one is just, like I said last time, going to a board certified plastic surgeon and going to someone who's done it before, specifically on competitors or people who have like aesthetic goals, because, we have patients that are just, they don't lift. They just have gyno from being fat or from having weird hormonal shifts as a young person, or they were athletes years ago and took drugs and then never got it addressed. So like, obviously you can kind of treat that a little differently, but just to have somebody go in and, as you've seen, like just a general surgeon or someone who doesn't really do it well, scarring can be an issue. You can have issues with having the area overexcised or underexcised. And in all cases, I mean, if you leave a little bit of breast tissue, which you almost have to do, it can regrow. And that's kind of knowing that going in. Yeah, I wonder what percentage. It's got to be a high percentage of bodybuilders end up getting gyno surgery. It's got to be like most of them, I would think. It seems to be the case.
Maybe only the ones who don't understand the hormones, Paul.
Which is most of them.
What? I had it as a teenager. I had it before I ever touched anything. And it grew when I was off gear, probably because I was estrogen dominant, I would say, probably at that point. I know a lot of guys have had lipo too done that. They don't openly talk about it, but I see a lot of dudes get their love handles, lower back done. That seems to be a common one.
Yeah, we call those the flanks. And we almost always do lipo with our gynecomastia. I mean, for two reasons. You can kind of help break up the breast tissue a little bit with the lipo cannula ahead of time, making, what you excise smaller. And just to kind of feather everything in so you don't end up with like weird deformities. And I think that's really the key in finding somebody to do the surgery, is if they think they can do it all with lipo, they're probably wrong. They're going to leave the breast bud behind. You can't break it up completely. Hey, Catherine. But also, making sure that if you need a little bit of lipo, that they actually know how to feather it correctly so that you don't end up with like a weird pocket of fat somewhere.
We actually have some
anywhere, like on your flanks too.
Yeah, I've seen guys end up having lumpy liposuction done where it's but it's changed a lot now, isn't it? A lot of it now it's laser assisted and whatnot. It's changed from what I understand.
Yep. We use a lot of radiofrequency assisted liposuction now, and it definitely is the best for skin tightening by far. I mean, we've used all of the technologies over the years, and laser, ultrasound, radiofrequency for sure gives you the most skin tightening effect. And in the right hands is going to give you probably the best results overall, because it really helps liquefy that fat in a really nice way. The big issue that you see with lipo that's not done correctly is they over aggressively treat an area, and then you can end up with like a divot. And ultimately that's worse than even having a lump. I mean, a lump we can go back in and lipo more, but if you take too much fat in an area, it causes that fascia from just to really adhese, and you can get these weird deformities that are really hard to treat. I mean, we can go back in and do fat transfer after the fact, but it never is the same. Like, it's hard to fix bad lipo. I mean, it can be done, but if it's really poorly done, it's really hard to fix.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I've seen some bad stuff. I definitely, the stuff I had done when I was younger turned out bad, and I had to go back and get shit repaired later on. I had I had lipo done when I was in my 20s, a little bit, like on my flanks, and it was all lumpy, and I had to have the guy go in and clean it back up. He did a nice job. It turned out nice. And then I had the tummy tuck done too, because I got fat for a while, the mini tummy tuck. So I've had it all. That's why my stomach looks like a mess.
Surgery is one of those things when it's elective, you can always do more. I always tell people you can never go back and undo it, but you can always do more.
Excuse my ignorance on this subject. I haven't studied it much because I have never had gyno issues, but it makes sense for males to just remove the glands. Isn't that correct?
We take out as much of the breast bud as we can.
Yeah.
You sometimes can't take every little last bit because you can end up with like what Paul had an issue where it's almost like collapsed or causes that nipple to invert. So you have to be
Create a
slightly
nipple.
conservative in some cases. But you'd be surprised how much you can get out. I mean, there's a lot of breast tissue that we excise, especially for, bodybuilders who you don't want it to regrow at all. But in most cases, you're going to leave a little right underneath that nipple and areola just so they don't collapse in.
Okay. But it's much, just so they don't get gyno again in the future, right? Like does removing some of that bud prevent that?
It does, because there's only so much tissue left to grow.
Right. Okay.
Like what Paul's dealing with now, like it's very small, but it's still there. And then when it does grow, can you excise it again? Yes. We've had a few patients who've had either rapid regrowth of breast tissue, which is very unusual, or, over the course of, 5-10 years, it kind of slowly starts to grow back depending on what it is they are doing lifestyle and activity wise that causes it to regrow. Interestingly enough, the worst one we've had regrow was a patient who he was just a regular dad kind of guy. We took it out and he had regrowth pretty quickly. When he came in for a follow-up, we were planning on doing a touch-up, but when I saw him, I said, you really might want to consider, before we do this again, getting your hormones checked, because it was just very clear. He was, to call him sluggish seems kind of mean, but he really was. Like, he had all the signs of just extremely low testosterone. He ended up going to an endocrinologist, and when he came back, we actually didn't have to do it because it once he got on the right hormones, once he got some testosterone back in his life, he dropped like 30 pounds, and the gyno that had regrown went away. It was really just because he was so estrogen dominant.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
He looked like a completely different person. It was crazy.
Yeah. I have seen things like that before. Like, you wouldn't expect males can be estrogen dominant, but it happens.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely, I was one. My hormones have changed as I've gotten older, but when I was younger, it was a heavy estrogen converter. Like, D-ball was just like instant boobs for me.
Yeah.
I think I was
I think
estrogen
body
dominant
fat.
when I was younger too.
Body fat plays a big role. All the guys that I know of that were estrogen dominant were always like on the chubbier side. And I think it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Like the high estradiol or the body fat? Like, it's always a bit of a juggle to kind of know which one was the first.
Right. And a lot of times the body fat and the high estradiol resulting from that can come from low hormones, can come from low testosterone.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, and there's 300 genes that affect body fat. There's only one that affects aromatization. So body fat most likely came first.
It's interesting.
And there's other,
And
and
then
it's not
that's
just
caused an
estrogen.
increase
That's
in
the
aromatase enzyme
So
expression.
in order for gyno to form, because we've done knockout mice with different hormones, so it has to be, progesterone has to be, so for the individual, it doesn't mean that there's a range necessarily. Progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, or whatever the primary androgen is, and IGF all need to be elevated at the same time for gyno to form. If only estrogen were up, it wouldn't necessarily cause gyno. So it's that all of them are above baseline for that individual, and then the gyno will grow.
I know for me,
Estrogen is the offender, though. Same with cancer. It's just that the other ones have to allow the growth. Like the androgen is what allows the tissue to actually grow.
so that would explain, like for me, I can run tests and not get gyno, but I throw any nandrolone in, it's instant gyno growth.
Yeah. That's
It
interesting.
explains why people get
progesterone.
pubertal gyno too. I got pubertal gyno, and it makes sense. Androgen levels obviously go up in puberty. So estradiol is already a little bit elevated from being a bit chubbier, say, for example, and then you get androgens go up. You've obviously got progesterone up in the background, and then it's like a perfect storm for gyno in puberty. That makes sense.
Well, the progesterone shouldn't necessarily be up, but it can be.
But it can be up, yeah.
Interesting.
And IGF is going to be up because growth hormone's up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it with a lot of guys, though. It seems like DECA and MPP, like guys that are prone to it, as soon as they throw that in, they just start growing gyno rapidly.
Well, and nandrolone will also block. So progesterone will block the AR at a certain point too. So if you run too much nandrolone or too much progesterone, at a certain point, it'll actually inhibit the androgen receptor. It's a structure. Testosterone and progesterone are very closely related, much closer than estrogen and testosterone.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is an interesting subject that a lot of guys don't openly talk about, but it's like I talk. One of the things with this channel has been cool is I get to talk to a lot of guys, and it's like it's everybody I've talked to, for the most part, has had gyno surgery. You're uncommon if you haven't. I don't know. Maybe I think I'm the only one on here though that's had gyno surgery, right?
Yeah, I've never had an issue with gyno.
Justin, you ever had any issues with it or no?
No, a little like I can't use 19 Nors. I can't really do DECA. Try not to be real careful. I've had really high prolactin levels, and my first trend cycle, 25 years ago, I got a little bit of gyno, but nothing ever since. And nothing. I never use an AI ever for anything.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, I think I could take 10 grams of test and not need an AI. I don't know I could, but I'm pretty sure I could.
Mm-hmm.
Join the chase irons. Yeah, prove it. Yeah, let's do it.
I love your comment, Reno May. Happy to have you watching live. I also really enjoy your profile picture there.
Yeah.
I just talked to Reno earlier. Reno's great.
Makes me
I don't know
proud
if
to
you
be
guys
an
follow
American.
him on. You don't know if you follow him on YouTube. Reno's great. Yes. Gyno's an interesting one. So what else is going on, guys? We got the New York Pro coming up. I got fooled last week with the fake New York Pro stuff, but Nick Walker's looking dominant.
Yeah. I'm keen to see Martin too. He's looking good.
Yeah, he's got a crazy physique.
Yeah, he kind of just he was off the radar for a while. I mean, he obviously turned pro, and then it was just you didn't really hear much about him. You'd see glimpses of him from time to time if there was a bit of drama or I don't know. And then, yeah, all of a sudden he seems to be a lot more active and competing, which is cool.
I'm offending the no food on camera rule. People get very upset when we eat on camera.
Yeah. Oh, did you guys see Flex Lewis tore his tricep?
Yeah.
So
it
crazy.
was
I
tendon, hey.
Yeah, the story of how it happened too. I'm like, men are odd. I get that he didn't want people taking pictures of him going to the bathroom, so that's why he was in a stall. But why did somebody kick the stall door? It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
What happened? I didn't hear what happened.
I didn't either.
Yeah, he said he was
basically trying to hold the stall door or something, and someone kicked it or something.
kicked it. Yep.
Yeah.
And he tore his tricep.
Yeah, like what kind of samurai was kicking this door?
From what I understand, I mean, Kurt, you would know. You've worked in a medical setting, but those injuries like that, the weird ones like that, a lot of times. I mean, what my surgeon told me with my ACL is that it was probably already just hanging on by a thread, and it was just the last blow to it that made it pop. It's not the actual thing that happened at that time.
Yeah, it's probably weakened or congenital. Like some people just have weakened, right? It depends on the shape of it and what you've done to it over time. I mean, it doesn't get the same blood flow or growth factors as muscle, so it's not going to be as strong.
Yeah, I've had both of my ACLs redone. Both of them
Something
popped.
happened. Something similar happened to Evan Centopani a few years back. He slipped on some black ice stepping out of his car, and he tore his quad tendon right off the bone. Or not obviously it doesn't come off the bone, but tore his quad tendon. Yeah, that was.
Wasn't that
I remember that story.
Branch Warren? He tore his quad riding his horse or some shit. I don't remember. I remember the story.
Oh, they were recording that. Was a film or a documentary they were recording, and the guy that was recording holding the big audio mic or something, apparently it scared the horse, made him fall off the horse. Yeah, he hurt himself somehow. Yeah, it was a bit of a controversy at the time.
When you're carrying all that muscle too, I think it probably makes you more prone to tendon and ligament tears as well.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and I think there is something said too for previous injuries or just overuse in general. I mean, those muscle fibers could be kind of slightly frayed, and just one good hit is all it takes to kind of be the final tear. But it does seem like a very odd way to get injured, and an odd injury in general.
Yeah. But it always seems to be that way. It's very rare you injure yourself in the gym. It's always you're doing some weird thing outside of the gym. I remember I messed up my lower back once when I slipped accidentally and caught my weight on a step going down the stairs in the back of my mother's cafe at the time. Just weird stuff. But then a week later I'd be deadlifting, and I'd pull say 7 plates or whatever, and my back's fine. It's just, you think it'd go when you do something like that. It's so strange, like you said.
Here's his tear. Check this out.
Yeah,
That's brutal. Yeah,
I hope they can repair it because it sounded like he did it like the first day of vacation and he stayed on vacation. So hopefully it's still fully repairable.
Yeah, because if it retracts too much, they can't repair it, eh?
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's something you have to get on right away, isn't it?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, they can
especially I think if you have
That's
larger
what the
muscles,
very
stronger
first
muscles.
comment there says.
Oh, it does.
Somebody giving him exactly that advice.
Mhm.
That stinks to be on vacation and do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
When I tore my
Good
bicep.
surgery.
you
Yeah.
got it done. Good.
Oh,
to
yeah.
go.
Oh yeah, there he goes.
Yeah, you got it done. That's wild. He's like he's done with bodybuilding though, from what I understand. I don't think he's.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's even if you stay in shape, I think it's hard to come back. It's I mean, Jay tried it, Ronnie tried it. Ronnie didn't even step on stage, but he tried. He was planning on doing it in like 2008 or something. And when Jay tried to come back, and Ronnie even did a video saying it's not going to work. He said, I tried it, it's just not. And that was only after a year or two off. I mean, Flex has been out for a while. I mean, I think at that point, it's almost got to be like when guys will come back after 10 or 15 years and you spend like a 2 or 3 year run up to it. But I think even if you stay in shape, it's hard to reclaim that peak level when you were at especially his level.
Yeah, you almost have to keep that momentum going, and once it's gone, it's.
Yeah, I mean, I know I tried too personally. I left for like 6 years and I tried to come back, and it was like cargo cults. You guys know about cargo cults. Like when World War II, we were in the South Pacific and we'd fly into these islands and we'd set up, landing strips and runways and control towers, and all the food and supplies would come in. And when we left after the war, all the natives of the island didn't know what was going on and they wanted the food to come back. So they put coconuts on their ears, like headsets, and they build runways and they build towers out, and they did all the things that, like everything was the same, but it just didn't happen. And that was, for me, that was what happened. The same PEDs, the same training, the same strength, the same body weight, the same apparent body fat, but it just wasn't the same. It just didn't happen as well.
Well, I know it took me. Oh my God, I took 12 years off. It took me a good 3 or 4 years just working out just to get to the point where I could get on stage again, and then it was not a good result the first time.
Yeah. For another example, it's like you got to really. It's like starting from scratch, really. I mean, he's obviously a better scratch, but it's not like starting where you left off. It's a multi-year process.
Yeah, I mean, that's God. When did we start training again, Colin? 7 years ago?
I think late 2015 or like mid 2015. I think we started.
Yeah, so 8-9 years ago. So it's taken me 8-9 years to get back to where I am now. I mean, I'm bigger than what I was in my 20s now, but it took me a good 7-8 years to get back there.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the reason why I'm tempted to keep going. I keep telling myself this has got to be my last show, and I'm like,
well, this is your last show. That's the thing, like this is, you don't get to take 3 years off and be like, I'll make one more run. I mean, you can, but it's not going to be the same. So you kind of do got to, drive it till the wheels fall off.
how often do you think you have to compete to keep it going, Justin? Once a year?
I don't even know that. I think probably less the competition. You have to do all the be a full-time bodybuilder year round. You know what I mean? I think it's like even Flex. I mean, he still trains, obviously, he still supplements, and he's still in great shape. But you can tell he couldn't just jump into a prep. He would need a full off season, probably still not get to his peak size. So I don't know that you have to compete, but I think you can't ever really. There's only so far you can back down. And like you look at someone like Flex, or even in my case, I would still be 255 pounds or something. And so, you look still pretty big, but, that 255 would have been at 305, where at the same body fat at my peak, that's a 50-pound difference. And so Flex still really big, but there's it's like that thing that happens when guys compete and their stage weight keeps going up, but that levels off. But guys that compete in the supers at the nationals weigh as much as the guys on the Olympia stage, but it's a totally different look. Yeah. There's an additional 3-dimensional look that starts to happen when you kind of you hit the wall, you're at the rev limit, you're not really adding on tons of muscle, but the shape continues to change and you get that rounder 3-dimensional look. It's why Ronnie could win the Olympia in '98 at 246 pounds, and there'll be 5 guys at the USA's over 260 on stage in shape, but they don't look anything like Ronnie's 246. And I think that's there's something that I have no idea even what it is, but there's something that goes on like that you can't just let that, you can't lose that. So whether you compete or not, you have to be still serious in the off season, like you're going to compete.
Yeah, I looked at my picks from my last prep at 10 weeks out, and then the ones this I'm the exact same weight that I was 10 weeks out, but I look completely different now.
Totally different. Yeah, same thing happened to me. I was same weight for the 2006 Junior USAs and the 2007 USAs, but it was a complete, I mean, it looked 30 pounds bigger at the same weight. It was a completely different look. And my off-season weight stayed the same like the last 4 years that I was serious, you know, but every year, similar body fat, same weight, completely different look. I don't know what it is. I call it second bodybuilding is kind of what I've always joked. It's like, you know, like most people spend their whole time in first bodybuilding because they never get to that peak size where their weight stops going up. But it's a weird thing that happens, and your weight just kind of doesn't change as much, but your look continues to progress.
I saw Wesley Vissers. I posted it. There was a progress picture of him from the last like 6-7 years, and it was pretty crazy how he changed. I'll see if I can pull it up. His
was a crazy progression.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was cool.
But that was another one where his weight didn't really change that much.
Yeah.
It was, he just got thicker and denser, and
it looks more 3-dimensional. It looks like rounder. Just it's a different look.
Pull this up so you can see.
Yeah.
Better at posing too.
I mean the posing improved, but I mean the weight really wasn't much different between these pictures. A couple pounds.
Yeah, and that's why I hate the scale. The scale has ruined more bodybuilders than anything else because, you know, like the scale. Ronnie Coleman's this is a perfect example. You know, if you'll have a client and if they're not heavier on stage every single year, they'll think they're regressing. You know, but you show this like, no, here's roughly the same weight and it's a completely different look over time. You know, you don't stand on a scale on stage. They view you how you look. And almost all of us would be better if we just never knew what we weighed and we went solely by how we looked, I think.
Yeah. I agree to a large extent. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean talking to him too, he said he's still pretty far under the cap too. I think he's told me he was like 6-7 pounds.
That's crazy. Some of those guys, I don't know what their bones are made out of because it blows my mind. The guy will think there's no, you know, he's got to really struggle, and then you find out he's got 6 kilograms to go and still be underweight. That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, like sparrow bones, like hollow.
Yeah, I've always been heavy boned. I'll be the complete opposite. Like at 240, I look like a bobblehead doll.
Yeah, I'm like I got this weird in between. Like I'm not like I don't think I could get down to classic now. Like classic for me would be 232. Would be I mean I'd really have to. I mean I have to lose 30 pounds. Yeah. Have you seen him recently since he put on? He's in his off season.
Oh, he looks so good.
Mm-hmm.
What were you going to say?
That's another like anyone who wants to compete. That's off season, guys. That's another thing in the gym that looks shredded. Guys will prep for a show and look like that and think they're stage lean and ready. And that look, which looks amazing in the gym, would just look soft on stage. You know, it's like when guys get those, you know, like that in full posing suit, that won't look in shape at all. In the gym, that looks shredded.
Yeah, you know when you're ready for the stage when you look small in your shirts.
Yeah. When your mom is threatening to 5150 you for being an anorexic, that's when you're close.
Last year I remember going to a dinner at my parents' house, and my mom was like, "You're getting too thin. I'm worried about you." And I'm like, "I'm 240 pounds."
Yeah. Mom's always think you're too thin.
I'm not. She's like, "You need to eat." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm 240. I'm not starving."
Mom, I'm obese. Lay off.
Yeah. Have you seen my BMI?
I'm morbidly obese.
I would always show up as morbidly obese.
Yeah, you gotta love that. Hey, the good old BMI.
You look tiny in the middle of all these hairy dudes.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, well, it's a rest day for me. I'm like, I feel like I should like drink some like pump or something to like look like I have any muscle at all. Like flat.
You're in. Are you in prep right now, Amy?
I am going to start prep in 2 weeks. It was supposed to be 4 weeks from now, but I found a show that I want to do earlier. It's actually close. It's in Cheyenne, Wyoming, which is just like an 1.5-hour drive for me. So, and it's a Clash series show. So I'm super excited. So yeah, I start prep in just a couple weeks.
What's a Clash series? I don't know that.
Oh, it's the like they put on like Girl Power and they do some of the bigger shows. Yep. So this is actually a national qualifier. So it's most of the shows they put on are pro shows, which I am.
Awesome.
So yeah, so I'm super excited. So it'll be September 14th. I'm nervous and excited, listening to you and AJ talk about prep and the crazy neurological things that happen to your mind at the end of prep has had me feeling a certain kind of way thinking about starting prep again, but I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm gonna get AJ on the live stream. He said he would come on. He was interested to talk to. He has an interesting. I don't know if you heard that one, Justin. I had him on. He was talking about like prepping people. Like he'll do like these mini refeeds. Like he'll have people go hard for like 4 or 5 days and then do 2-3 days of pushing the food up and then come back down.
Yeah. I mean, especially if you can get ahead of schedule, that's really probably almost the best. It's just, it's hard to get that far ahead of schedule without sacrificing some progress in the off season, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like weird. It's like, I don't know what the right answer is. I mean, maybe do you like if you're ahead of schedule, do you back off or do you keep pushing and be ready early?
What I like to do, I think the ideal prep is to be essentially ready at like 4 weeks out, or where you'd be comfortable peaking, and then you add some food back in. Maybe not like mega aggressively, probably still like slightly hypocaloric, but you get a little bit of fullness, kind of like you do after the show, where you're just holding so much fluid and nutrients in the muscles. And then I'll really push the high carb days, and I'll push carbs around training. And if you can do that, like, guys will continue to get leaner, but they'll get some of the cell volumization from the higher carbs. It's just to be ready 4 weeks early. I mean, if you do a 16-week prep, that means you're doing a full contest prep in 12 weeks, which means you had to start pretty lean. And so it's just hard to do because, like if you start getting into like a 20-week prep, then you get 16 weeks to get ready and 4 weeks out. But then 5 months of your 12-month year is prep, At some point, you got to take a break or cruise, or you should spend at least a couple of months a year at TRT doses and, give your body a little break, a couple of deloads. So you're cutting your off season down to like 12 weeks already. So it's hard to decide the trade-off, because I think you need at least 16 weeks to really make substantial changes in size in the off season, other than the rebound, but for your main off season. So if you do like a 4-week rebound, like a 6-week cruise and a 16-week growth period, already if you're competing once a year, it's time to prep. You're basically 16 weeks out. If you take a cruise, another one, you're definitely 16 weeks out. And so it's just there's only so much time.
I really didn't even do an off season this year. I just did pretty much cruised. Like once you get to a higher level, and I think a lot of pros do this, that's probably the best approach, especially for longevity. But you're not burned out, your receptors aren't burned out. I don't think that really matters, but you're healthier. You can feel more comfortable about pushing things in prep, knowing that you were really mild all off season. You're not burned out with training, you're not injured, you're not, so it's just because you're at like you said, your weight isn't really changing much. And so you're at the point now where prep isn't just about starving and getting fat off. It's about being as precise as you can to really nail the look. And so you don't need to have a 40-pound off season anymore, because you're not going to gain 40 pounds of stage weight. It's just not happening, at the size you're at. And so like once you get bigger, I think it's probably better to go milder in the off season and then like grow into the show, where you're not really growing to the show, but you're, really upping your PEDs. And so you do get some actual hypertrophy even in a hypocaloric diet. Yeah, that's what happened to me. I actually put on about 10 pounds the first couple of weeks, and then it came back down. It's funny, like people don't believe me that I was running bodybuilding TRT, like whatever. I'm not. It's not like I'm measuring it accurately, but it was funny that people thought I was lying about the off season. I'm like, you can see when I put the PEDs back in, my body weight went up and I got a different look.
Well, and that's the thing too, is like people think you're on TRT, they expect you to shrivel up to 114 pounds. You know, it's like, it's only been 3 months, you know, and I did, I'm like 15 pounds less muscle than I am at my peak. So I did lose muscle. Yeah, I just that my peak was, you know, 260 in really good shape. Now I'm, you know, 250 and a little soft. It's like, you know, I'm still to someone who's trying to get to 250 for the first time period, that still seems huge, but you're down in size, you're a little softer. So of course, when you throw the PEDs back in, you're up in weight, you're fuller, harder, and you really transform. But it's not like, I mean, people get like, that's what another thing that we do such a disservice. We think we're gonna, like, muscle's just gonna like pour off us. You're still on PEDs. You know, bodybuilding TRT is still above TRT. You know? So you're on what most people's first cycle is. You know, the first cycle you gain a ton of size and strength, and you're losing weight. You know, it's just it's only been 3 months. It's not like you lose 40 pounds while on a cycle in 3 months.
Yeah.
This guy cracks me up. This cuckolding strength and fitness. Every video I put up, he asked me to tell Todd to unblock him. He's like, Todd blocked me, and I'm like, well, I don't know. I like the name.
I don't know. If I didn't know better, I might think that was an internet troll.
I think it is. I just realized that's a aged photo of Jason Blaha.
That's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Yeah, I remember Ice Cream Fitness.
He's like, please tell Todd. He was telling me the other night, he's like, please tell Todd to unblock me. I promise I'll behave this time. See, I like those kind of trolls. I love those sort of trolls. They make me laugh
now.
Like Emperor Sheev. Gosh, they're my kind of trolls. I appreciate the good humor. It's the ones that aren't clever I don't like. All right, should we take some questions?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, is it Victor? Yeah, might be him hiding. Let's grab some questions.
Sure thing. We got some good ones in today. George always has a lot of questions. Here is one. How often do you guys tend to need a refeed when you're cutting hard?
Every day for me.
It depends on how far you're into the cut.
Yeah, want versus need. I generally have almost everyone once a week have a high carb day.
I was going to say every 4 or 5 days usually.
Yeah, that's how I usually approach it. Yeah, 5 or so days high.
There he is.
But at the very start of a deficit, like even if you're going hard, the first 2 to 3 weeks you can probably go without one.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to lose a lot of water. You're still pretty much going from a hypercaloric state into a hypocaloric state. And you're going to be isocaloric at a point there. So it's like the first 2 to 3 weeks, so you don't slow yourself down unnecessarily. Just maybe don't have a high day and then chuck them in. Yeah.
Do you ever
the
pull out the
frequency
high
and the
days,
size
Justin?
of high days will get bigger as you get deeper into the cut.
What's that, Paul?
Do you ever pull out the high days, Justin?
Yeah. I mean, we've never had you for yours because your metabolism usually goes insane in prep. But yeah, I'll have guys skip a high day, or I try not to because like if you do the numbers, it's 3,500 calories for a pound of fat, and you get glycogen depleted, and it's like when people freak out about having a cheat meal, and so like I have guys replace their last meal of the day with a cheat meal, often with a calorie cap, and the calorie cap might be 1,200 calories, but their high day meal might be 800 calories. So even if they had the cheat meal, it's only 400 extra calories a week, which is, I think it's way easier to drop 400 calories over the other 6 days and keep that keep that high day in. Or it's just when like you don't really save that many calories, if you don't have the high day, you save those calories that you're from the high day to lower day, whatever calorie it is. Maybe it's a lot, maybe it's 600 calories, but that's only 100 calories a day less you need to eat spread out over the other 6 days. And by not having the high day, you don't restore glycogen levels, you don't upregulate thyroid, your energy output's going to probably be lower, your needs probably going to be lower the rest of the week because you never replace the glycogen. And I just learned that over time, like the trade-off for one day, there's only so many excess calories you can have, and they often end up, I think, it's hard to get real data on this because it's self-reporting, but when you pull at clients report that they don't burn as many calories in cardio, they burn less NEAT, they don't hit their step count because they're too tired. Or if you add the high day in, even though it is excess calories, it seems like they burn more calories over the rest of the week just by having the extra energy.
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, I never considered that part of it.
Increase in NEAT from having a little bit more.
Yeah,
energy coming
yeah.
in.
I mean, because we're not robots. That's the thing. Like we write diets like we're writing a diet to a robot. You know, I don't think cheat meals are good. I would love to never have to worry about a cheat meal, but I've learned that if I don't plan for a cheat meal at a strategic time where I think it'll have the least negative impact on the diet, what ends up happening is everyone breaks at some point, and they break on a low day that's supposed to be our main fat burning day, and they have, every item at McDonald's in one meal, and then maybe they do tell me and maybe they don't tell me, but either way, like the cheats happen. And so I can pretend everyone's going to be a robot and never ever break from the diet, and some people are, and you learn who those people are. But I can pretend that, or I can accept the reality of the people are going to break down and eat excess calories at some point. I can put that in a planned point where it'll have the least negative impact on the diet and the most benefit to the diet, or I can pretend they're a robot and then let them blow up the diet on their own and then not have a solution for it.
I'm actually at that point right now that I've been doing, I was doing 200 on a low day, 350 on the 2 training days, push pull, and then I was doing 800 on my high day, which was legs. And the question was, how do we accelerate this fat loss? Do I move the high day back and do it every 5 days and put in an extra rest day? So it goes 200, 350, 350, 200, 800. So what I tried to do is this week I did 600 on the high day, 200 instead of 250 on the low day, 300 on each training day. So I basically took off 50 from the normal days, took 200 off of the high day, and I had dramatic results this week. I actually posted them just now in group chat. And then the next iteration, I was basically going to try it out, take it even further, put an extra low day today, do my high day tomorrow, make it 5 days. So it'd be 600, 200, 300, 300, 200, and see if that's better.
Todd.
Yeah, I'm too technical.
No, Todd, we have it. We have an urgent
we need to convene the council, Paul. Yeah.
Todd, please unblock. Cuckolding strength and
I was hoping you were going to.
We need to hear.
What happened, Todd?
The crimes.
I don't remember what it was,
the
but
charges,
it was absolutely horrific. Yeah, he said something that was so unforgivable that I was like, I want horrible things to happen to this person I can't say on YouTube, and I blocked him. And I was like, that's not enough. Like, I can't even joke about what I wanted to do. Yeah, I don't remember what it was, but it was absolutely unforgivable. Yeah,
he's repenting. He wants redemption.
Everybody's redeemable. Catholic church, man, you can't confess. You can't. This is like Jewish church.
You can repent by making a new screen name,
and there's no getting out of it.
I told you, cuckolding. I tried, man.
I saw that episode. I was like, oh man, that's so cute. Paul doesn't even want to try. And I don't block people for no reason. I don't block people just because I'm grouchy.
I block people for petty reasons.
Let's see what Todd's picks. You're doing a bunch of shows, right, Todd?
Yeah, that's what I have. It's whether or not, based on what you guys think, am I going to make Atlanta July 13th or not? If I can make Atlanta July 13th, I'm doing it. Otherwise, I've got to wait until Tampa and Texas.
What's the lump on your back, man?
That's what he does his pH.
No, I don't fucking know what that is. That's been there for at least 10 years.
Oh. No, Justin, Todd does his GH in his belly button.
We talked about that last week. I was the idiot that actually did that and put myself in the hospital. Yeah, you look good, man.
Appreciate it. Yeah, so the question is, am I 7 weeks out? Am I 13 weeks out? There's pretty much, actually, it's 8 weeks for, it's funny because it's such a jerk move on Tim Gardner's part, I think, is that he put it like it's the Atlanta, and then 5 days later is the Chicago Pro. And then there's Tampa, and then 8 days later is the Texas Pro, but there's 2 weeks in the middle where there ain't shit. It's like if you'd space those out more, I could do all 4. But I don't know if I could make it from Texas to from Tampa to Texas in 8 days and look my best. I don't know if I can make it from Atlanta to Chicago in 5 days and look my best. So it's like basically I have to lean on the outside perimeter and go Tampa, Atlanta, because they have a Masters 212, and the other one is Texas. And that way it's like one is July 13th and one is August 10th. So that's 4 weeks. And then the next one is the Masters Worlds, which is September 1st, which is 4 weeks. So it's like it's basically every show's 4 weeks apart, which gives you enough time to make some changes. You don't have to worry about, you can peak properly and then recover from the peak. Otherwise, if you have shows every week, you do a peak week for show 1. What are you going to do? Do another peak week for show 2? Like if you really did it right and you came off of things like GH and came off things like your anabolics, you won't be able to put them back in and then take them out in time. So you're really going 10 days. And then there's also, if you do a last leg day 8 days before the show, if you got shows every 7 days, what do you do? Just not do legs for 2.5 weeks? It doesn't make any sense to have them that close together.
I think Roman talked about last year. He just ran a regular cycle and kept training and just showed up and did the show, right?
Well,
Roman is the unique beast, though.
Ate some McDonald's.
Yeah. Had a bunch of apple pies.
What do you do with guys, Justin, when you have back-to-back shows like that?
Pick one to be dry at and one to be full at. Really, I mean, it's not like all or nothing, but one you be like try to be 100% dry, but only 90% full or whatever. And the other one, you're going to accept that you're going to be you only be able to be 90% dry, so you go for 100% fullness. But it really that and then it's not automatic which one is which. Sometimes being dry for the first show, as long as you can keep it under control and not screw up with the diet at all the next week, you can hold dryness pretty well and then come in quite a bit fuller. So like people would think like you go full the first one and then dry out harder for the second one. But I find like that's not always the case. It's really like someone like you, Paul, I would do probably dry the first one. Someone with like me who really has a hard time getting dry, I would probably do dry the second one and just go fuller for the first one. But I mean, if you're in shape, you really don't need to. Like we'll go watch the Unbelievable with Ronnie Coleman. He's 5.5 weeks out there. He could have stepped on stage any of those days and done well. If you're really in shape, like your look isn't bad when you don't dry out.
I'll be up. Todd, I'll be up there at probably the Masters World Championships. I got a couple guys competing in North Americans. I thought about like the North Americans as my backup show if Masters Nationals doesn't go well. What if I do get a pro card? Then I might do the Masters World Championships.
I don't see how it's possible you won't get a pro card on Masters Nationals because you're doing over 50 as a super heavy and you already have strided glutes. I think you could step on stage right now and win the over 50 Masters Nationals and the over 40. So I really think that you're going to get the second pro card or the first pro card in the over 50. You're certainly going to get at least the fourth pro card in the over 40. There's no way you're not getting a pro card. And I know that sounds arrogant, but I'm talking about you. I'm not talking about me here. I mean, I really believe in you like I believe that the sun's going to rise in the east tomorrow. Like there's no way that you're not getting this card.
It's so weird how my glutes come in before my back does. My back's still fat.
I don't see fat on your back. I see.
Oh, it's definitely. I've definitely got fat on my back.
I see hamstrings are cut. You got to remember, we have time to analyze a picture. They've got a lineup of a bunch of dudes who are all going to be fatter than you. So they're going to be like, oh, that guy's got shredded glutes and he's super heavy first. It's not.
You've been posing your back better too. It looks much crisper.
It was posing. I've been working with a posing coach. My posing just sucked. My back is still a little behind it's funny because my back is my strongest body part in the gym, but I'm still just a little behind. But I think a lot of it's just posing. My posing sucks. I've been cleaning it up. Like just this week, he cleaned up a bunch of stuff I was doing wrong, and I instantly looked bigger in my pics just from changing how I pose.
Yeah, I mean, it is a difference maker. Paul Dillette's the perfect example. You know, he was Mr. Olympia walking around, and he was out of the top 10 as soon as he hit a pose.
Was he terrible? I don't remember.
Oh yeah, he couldn't open his back at all. I mean, just standing there, he looked unbelievable, but he couldn't. I think he pinned all his. He always pinned his delts, and he had really poor mobility, poor external rotation, so he couldn't open his lats in a rear double bi. He couldn't. He'd hit his front double like this. Poor mobility, poor external rotation.
I'm getting echo in somebody's end. Yeah, that's
my bad.
That's my issue with my I have no shoulder mobility because both my labrums are torn. I'm really trying to work on that though. What is it?
Yeah, another thing people struggle to do is just open the scapula, like get that like upward rotation of the scapula around the rib cage, and so we can't like expose the inner back as much.
Yeah, I've been working on it. He was showing me some tricks to get my I was definitely not leaning back far enough on the I was standing up straight on the rear double, and he was showing me how there was just some stuff I was doing wrong with how I had my shoulders placed. But I knew last year I was cooked when they had me run through the rear double 3 times in the posing rounds because that's my weakest pose.
Yeah, that's the worst feeling.
Yeah, I knew, but I was happy with the results last year. I mean, I didn't expect to be out there in the finals, so that was cool. All right, let's grab another question. Enough about me.
Been chatting with Captain Flint. He wants to know what to do when your calories are already perilously low, but your fat loss is stalling. Should he remove his high day? He said he's doing 50 minutes of cardio a day, 5 days a week.
Damn, that's brutal.
What do you think, Justin? What do you think, Todd?
How long has he been dieting for?
That's a good question. I know he's in the chat. You gotta.
Yeah, I mean, it would depend on like what fat burners is he using. You know, is he tracking his NEAT? Is he tracking his steps? Is he
natural?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things. Exactly. You know, the big thing is like with poverty calories, what ends up happening is poverty NEAT is a big one. Mm-hmm. You know, people just stop moving and they don't account for it. You know, and it's not a huge difference, but if you drop 5,000 steps a day, you know, that's 150, 200 calories depending on your size, and that's 200 calories is almost a half a pound of fat a week.
Justin, what's NEAT? 10% a day?
More than that.
Yeah, what I do is I just set a minimum step count per week, and I'll say like 50,000 steps per week. I don't care when you get them, how you get them, and that's our minimum. If you go over, great, and it's doesn't have to be tracked. Like the health app on your phone is close enough. I just want to make sure that you're not at 60,000. We cut calories, and now you're at 10,000 because that's what people do. They'll sit in their cubicle at work and never move. And so whatever it is, I just want to make sure there's a baseline minimum that we never go under. So we remove that variable in cases like this.
So
apologies.
I think
NEAT's actually 15%.
10 weeks.
Sorry,
took 4 weeks off, went back in the diet last 4 weeks. All right, but so if you've had the high day, how high is your high day, and are you measuring your free T3? Because I get my free T3 tested every 2 or 3 weeks to make sure that my cycling's working. And what actually happened was my T3 went up from the carb cycling, which I thought was surprising.
Yeah.
The other thing is, are you using Humalog on your high day? Otherwise, you're just burning this shit off. You're not storing it.
I don't know about that. I don't know if that's accurate.
Well,
pancreas works on its own.
I mean, I'm not saying it's black or white, but I've noticed a significant change when I use Humalog with a high day versus not.
I have too. Yeah.
No, I'm just saying I don't know if I would make a blanket statement that people need to always use insulin on a high day.
Yeah,
you don't even know who the guy is. I would just, from a medical point of view, I'd be really careful telling people just use insulin.
But right there, that's a big. I go hypo. Like, then you're using the wrong amount of insulin. It sounds like you're taking insulin. Yeah. You're taking insulin and then hoping the diet covers it. You got to do the opposite. You got to have the diet and then design the insulin around the diet. Because if you
measure the insulin based on what you ate, where your blood sugar is.
Everyone does it wrong. if you have your diet and then you add a small amount of insulin and build up and find what you can take without going hypo, then what you end up doing is increasing the likelihood that some amino acids that might otherwise be converted to glucose, to gluconeogenesis, might now be synthesized as new muscle proteins. Some carbs that might otherwise go through the acid synthesis pathway might now be stored as glycogen because of the insulin. And so what you do is the insulin optimizes the diet.
I mean, my equation is I start with 1 per 20 grams, but I measure.
That's
with
too much for high day.
Well, that's what it works for me. But
I'm saying for him.
Yeah,
probably.
Like that's why I don't like, because everyone's just so different. Their insulin sensitivity. What I would do is I would say that's your high
That'd
day.
be 30. That'd be 34 insulin for only.
No, every other meal is what I do it.
You shouldn't even need insulin to process that many carbs if it's just a high day. In my opinion, I would drop the insulin. I would drop the insulin. I would just, if weight loss and fat loss is stalling, you've got no more runway for removing calories or increasing cardio, have a diet break, but a proper one, like a 2 to 4 week diet break where you titrate calories up as high as you can while maintaining body composition, and then go back into it, because adaptive thermogenesis will set in with anyone. When they're dieting, some people it sets in quicker than others. We're more or less adaptive from person to person. And I mean, the thing is, like, where was his starting point too? We don't even know what calories he started at. Like, did he start in a suboptimal place? Like, was his calorie intake already quite low relative to his body weight, his body composition, his needs? Like, because if you start in I suppose a adapted state, like metabolically adapted state, where adaptive thermogenesis set in, you don't have like a real good energy availability. You're basically starting from it's like you're basically starting. He said that, but
he already did a diet break for 4 weeks. Yeah.
And I was going to Chase. So it sounds like you definitely could benefit from having a coach there, Captain Flynn.
I'm concerned anyone who needs insulin at 680 grams of carbs, there's something else wrong.
All right, so let's go over this conversation again, because I think you misunderstood what I was saying, Kurt. What I was saying was, and I must have came out wrong, is that using insulin on the high day will optimize the benefit of the high day. I'm not saying that I, as a medical doctor, advise all people on earth, including every woman, man, child, and elderly person, to do an entire bottle of insulin with every meal. I'm saying that I use 5 units of Humalog pre-lift and 10 units post-lift, and I look different the next day if I do 5 units pre-lift and 15 units post-lift. I look bigger and leaner by using that 5 extra. I certainly wouldn't advise someone to use the 20-to-1 equation. I would basically start like Justin said, which is maybe 5, 2 or 3 times that day, and evaluate if it looks better. And if you're going hypo, like, don't shoot insulin and then go operate heavy machinery. Like, sit down in a fucking chair, eat some air pop popcorn after you have the insulin. If you get hypo, then maybe have like a Jolly Rancher or something like that to pull yourself out of hypo, and know that you've exceeded your upper limit, that it didn't supersede the whole concept of using safety, common sense, judgment, and whether someone is indicated for Humalog usage. I'm assuming that based on the fact that he had such an organized question, he was already a bodybuilder and had already tested the waters and knew whether his limits were in place for Humalog.
I want to clarify.
Complicated. I would think, one, you're in a position of power and you're a medical doctor, so you just have to be careful what you say on the internet, because people will copy what you say. And 2, you can't make any assumptions about this guy. How do you know if he's asking a general question to the whole internet about how to use insulin? Does that mean he knows how to use insulin? When someone
didn't ask the question,
my first thing is, then don't use it, because you clearly don't know how to use it. It's not.
He didn't ask about it. I just offered it. I said, maybe you're not using insulin.
The carbs, there's something else wrong.
Yeah. So well, that's the thing, and I agree with Kurt there. Like, I agree with Todd. I agree with you and Justin in terms of how to approach implementing insulin. I think that's the right way. But I think the point Kurt and I were both saying is, we know natural guys that do 680 carbs on a high day. It's like you don't need insulin to utilize that many carbohydrates. Like, it's not like it's beyond the body's physiologic capability of handling that. It's like, if you would do, say, I don't know, like 1,500 carbs or something, I understand the potential need for insulin or something like that. But I mean, I can't think of many people that can't, I suppose, assimilate the actual carbohydrates in a single
At
day.
the-
Like that
at the
amount's
ti-
pretty low.
At the time I said that, he hadn't disclosed he was only having 680 carbs. I assume that his
Yeah,
high day
yeah,
was 800
exactly.
or 1,000 carbs, and thus
Yeah.
that makes a difference. And what I found, and
Yeah.
probably what Paul's found too, is if you do food at, let's say you have 100 carbs at noon, and then you had 5 units of Humalog, you'll be hungry again at 1. Whereas if you don't use it, you won't be hungry again till 2. So you can get more clean carbs in a day using Humalog strategically and responsibly. And I don't mean like a Budweiser commercial, drink responsibly. I mean like juggling flaming daggers over your throat responsibly.
Captain Flint says, for more context, he was 226 pounds when he began doing 3 high days a week. He was using Lantus during the off season and had no issue until his diet got really low carb.
Well, I mean, that happens.
There's
have
other variables too. Is he doing HIIT cardio? Because if you're really, really low carb and you're doing HIIT cardio, the liver might not be able to keep up with the,
It says he's
I
doing
think
the
that at the end of the
Police
day,
Academy right now. I bet he is doing HIIT cardio.
I think like the coaches are expensive. They are, especially a good coach, because you get what you pay for the most part. But there really is no better cost. And I mean, if you work with a coach for 12 weeks, you will learn enough to completely transform your look. So think how many 12-week cycles you spent money on doing all the wrong things and making no progress. Take, if you want a shortcut to, the quickest shortcut to rapid progress is hiring a good coach. It really is. It's the most cost-effective thing there is. So many guys come to me, they've been cycling for 10 years. I mean, how many thousands of dollars have they spent on PEDs to have no one ever even ask them if they're a bodybuilder? Where if you just bite the bullet, and yes, they're expensive, but work with a coach for 12 weeks, learn how your body works, learn how proper nutrition and training and supplementation is from people who do it for a living. And then you exit out of that. All future cycles now are not wasted. I mean, really, it's easy for me to say as a coach, but you don't have to hire me, hire anyone. That's good. But
there you go, Justin. You just earned a client.
This is a good time of year because it's right before the fall contest season is just getting started. So most coaches will have late spring after the spring contest season and very late winter are usually when coaches will have openings. So like April, May, and like November, December is typically when you have your best chance.
Yeah. I wanted to clarify on my insulin formula, by the way, the way I do it. I measure my glucose before each meal, and then I'll adjust the dose accordingly. And I only run the Humalog every other meal. And when I'm talking 20 as a starting, that's that per meal, not for the whole day. So like that's where, so if I'm running 100 grams of carbs, I'll start with 5 units and then run it every other meal. That's how I do it. But I'll measure my glucose before the next meal, and if it's low, then I don't take it.
But you were taught how to use insulin properly. You didn't learn by going on the internet. I have a photo album full of lobbed off lower limbs and feet. If people want to see them, people who don't know how to use insulin. So
and that's a big problem.
Coffee table looks
a joke. I don't think people should fuck around with it.
Another reason to hire a coach is because most of the things on the internet are so wrong. They're not even wrong. It's like a different subject, and it makes sense because you're getting information from some anonymous person on the internet. One, if they're anonymous, that means whatever they're doing isn't good enough to make them not anonymous. So like right away, if they knew what they were saying, they would either be a bodybuilder you knew or a coach you knew. So if you're getting it from an anonymous person on the internet, whatever they're saying has not worked for them. So don't trust that it's going to work for you.
Yeah. And I'll say this too. As I get deeper into prep, I find I have to drop the insulin on my high days. My insulin sensitivity just gets so high, I don't even need it anymore. I will go hypo just from a couple units. That's the thing. 1,000 grams of carbs.
Yeah, another reason why he's probably not likely needing that insulin. If he's been dieting for as long as he has, like his insulin sensitivity should be pretty bloody good.
Well, I mean, he's running test only. That's not a good cycle for cutting. That's an example.
But that much testosterone will drive up insulin sensitivity in addition to the deficit. So, I mean, he should be pretty responsive to glucose with his own pancreatic production.
All right, let's grab another question. That was a hot one. We had a heated debate.
Can
Well, it was just I
Yeah, go ahead, Amy.
misspoke. That's because I misspoke.
No, I think it was just it was just the whole calamity, like us, I suppose, misinterpreting the information, then him providing it to us in segments and chunks, not having all the information, which would have allowed us to answer the question a little bit more efficiently.
Amy, you had something to add?
Not about this. I was going to go a different topic. So whenever
Yeah,
we're
go
ready
ahead.
to switch topics. Okay. So there was a question kind of at the beginning of the stream. Someone was asking about fertility advice while on TRT. And since Chase is in the comments, I have to say his recent video about their fertility journey was, oh my goodness, so touching. Like, I sent it to so many of my girlfriends who have either had miscarriages or whose siblings,
Oh,
like
that's
one
awesome.
of them had a brother who had it. And I mean, I just, that's all comes back to boob Chase. But, you know, to that person who was looking for advice for that, I would highly recommend looking at Chase's channel and watching that video, because it was incredibly helpful from a standpoint of like actually how to get pregnant when you're cycling or on or off cycle, but also just Chase, the way you told that story, I've never heard a man talk about miscarriage or their fertility that way. And it was incredibly meaningful to me. And like I said, I sent it to so many people, like men and women, just so that they could watch it. It was really, really good.
Chase is a nice guy. He's
Yeah.
the nicest guy you'll ever meet on 3 grams of test. All right, let's grab another question.
All right, we got Rack Pull here. Had this question in earlier, a cutting question. If your 2 low carb days are Saturday and Sunday, would you want your high day Monday when you're back to weight training, midweek or on his leg day or toward the end of the week? And does it matter?
I tend to put them on preferably high workload training days, so we know we're burning a lot of carbs, so we can eat even more of them. And then secondarily, if it also coincides, like if a weak part is back, then I'd also try to have it on a weak body part. You know, so like usually legs are back, and if back is a weak body part, then we do back instead of legs. But I typically try to do it on a high workload training day, just so you can eat even more carbs.
I lose my mind. I try to schedule mine to where it works out after an off day if I can, because I just like the low day, because I lose my mind when I get deeper. It gives me something to look forward to.
So what you're saying is your low day is your high carb day typically?
My low day is, or my high carb day
is the day before your low day.
After
my
my
it's
low
after
day.
your low day. Okay.
Yeah. I don't think you can really, like, I like Justin's idea. I think that's a good idea, having it on a high workload day. I mean, if he's got his 2 low days on Saturday, Sunday, why not just move your leg day to Monday and have your high day on Monday?
Yeah,
that's what makes sense to me. Yeah. And unless you can't do anything the day after legs, like my CNS is fried the day after legs and I can't even think straight. So it's probably best that I have it as a off day the day after legs.
Oh, for improved recovery.
Yeah, like anything I do, even when I go to physical therapy for my foot, it's like I can't do shit that day.
What's going on with your foot, Todd?
I don't know. It like started. I had a massage therapist who's really good. I started seeing my old massage therapist, and she fixed my foot so that I could like stand on the whole foot rather than just the outside blade of my foot. And then what happened was, that day it was fine. The next day I went for a walk and then my foot spasmed up. And so it turns out I have plantar fasciitis, I guess, on the right foot. So I've had it for like 4 or 5 weeks now. So it's hard to get my steps in. I can use cardio on the elliptical, which is basically the arc trainer, but I can't it's difficult just to walk across the room. So on leg day, it's really painful in squat shoes. But luckily when you're lifting, you have adrenaline, so it overrides pain. And that's pretty much, I've been going to physical therapy 2 times a week for my foot and massage therapy once a week for my foot. And I get like dry needling and all that stuff done.
Chase says, Todd, that's the diabetes. They're showing the nubbling pics.
That's why I've got the kinesio tape on my foot in the picture.
Does the KT tape help?
It helps so much. I just haven't really bathed. No, I'm kidding. I took a shower, but it's like I don't want it coming off. So I
Oh, it should
just try
stay
to,
on through showers, like for
okay, then
sure. I
fuck it.
mean,
I'm totally didn't do
yeah.
that then because I've never
Yeah,
had
you
to.
can-
It really helped the first couple of days. I was like, holy shit, this is awesome.
I've
And I
never
started
used that
doing
stuff.
yoga.
Does it really work?
Oh god, yeah. It's I
I'm a
couldn't
big
believe
fan.
something that dumb works, but it does. And I started doing well, it's just like we're gonna tape up your foot because it hurts and it actually works. And it's like I started doing yoga, and the yoga really helped with my posing. Even like Kegel exercises, which I don't need a tighter vagina, but I'm doing them and it's helping with the posing. and all
Everyone
that.
needs a tighter vagina, Todd.
I think it
On that
still
note,
helps men with their pelvic
I gotta
floor.
jump, guys.
All right.
See you, Kurt.
Okay.
Hey, Kurt.
See you,
So
Kurt.
you got-
So I'm doing yoga, getting massage therapy, and physical therapy 3 times a week total. And it's like, I feel like I need a man bun and a latte, but it's working. So I don't give a shit about dignity.
Or if BB would know, he's a physical therapist.
No, okay.
He's supposed to stay on for 72 hours. All right,
Okay.
let's grab it. Let's grab another question.
We have a
Like it
question.
should last, or it should be taken off after 72 hours because it's detrimental. Because I would like to leave it on until the next time I see them.
It'll start to kind of lose its tensile strength after a while. Like you'll start to, like the benefit won't be there. I mean, there's no harm in leaving it in most cases. I mean, you wouldn't want to leave it on for like weeks and weeks. I have really sensitive skin to KT tape, and it would last. Like I end up having to usually take it off because on my skin it does stay. But if you're using it for support, you'll just start to notice that support goes down. If you're using it like as more like a web pattern for like helping with lymphatic flow or reducing inflammation to a site of injury, you know, that those strips are usually thinner and more to kind of lift the skin up above it, so to let blood flow through. Yeah, it starts to fade. Yep.
All right. Yeah, I've noticed that it started getting a little less tight. Like I don't feel it 100% of the time anymore, but it's still helpful.
Yeah,
can use
just
my
the
whole
tensile strength of the tape starts to
I can do
loosen.
this and everything. Not again. Before I was like this, and I would walk on this side of my foot, and all my right shoes wear out faster because my foot wear pattern is outside the sole. Because my feet are wider than the sole of the feet because of all the GH.
All right, let's grab one more and then I got to roll.
All right. A few people have been asking us to touch on this question here from Mel Bobadilla. I see most pros as guys that started lifting as lean or skinny guys. Have any of you guys ever trained anyone for competition who had been obese most of their life? What were the
I've done it
challenges
twice.
regarding
Yeah.
conditioning? I know some of you have. so-
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, I helped a guy get from 300 pounds to 180, and he took second in the classic, in the regular physique. So the what do they call swimsuit division, and I helped another dude
physique,
get
yeah.
from 400 down to 225, and he never competed, but he here's the thing: there will always be loose skin if you're losing hundreds of pounds of fat, but you can surgery that off.
And get a good surgeon.
Yeah,
Good surgeon.
yeah. Because the thing is, a
Plastic
lot of
surgeon,
surgeons
not general
aren't good.
surgeon.
Yeah, they have cosmetic surgeon is not a plastic surgeon. You need to have a fellow of plastic surgery. That doesn't mean there aren't good cosmetic surgeons that aren't plastic surgeons. But for instance, I know people that got nose jobs done by an ENT and they didn't disclose that they were a plastic surgeon. Like they didn't disclose they weren't a plastic surgeon. And I find that what is an improvement? How should I put this? Getting someone from a 4 to a 5 with plastic surgery is a lot probably better than getting someone from a 9 to a 10. So you want to have somebody who is an artist with a scalpel, not just hacks off stuff you don't need and then seals it up. I mean, like,
Yeah.
Paul talks about his nipples a lot, and obviously that would not be what I would consider ideal outcome, is to have revisions upon revisions, because they're not considering, like I had my gyno removed, and now that I'm leaner, it's like there's a kind of a cavity there. Hopefully that goes away, and I think it will, but it's one of those things where you might want to be as absolutely lean as possible so they see what you're going to look like when you're done, and then they take it, rather than going in there when you have another 50 or 100 pounds to lose or 20 pounds to lose, then they make some adjustments to make it as perfect as possible. Then you get even leaner and you're stage ready and you got a skin fold in the same place you had the skin fold.
I saw the difference a good surgeon makes. I've had a number of clients. Well, a number of clients get skin removal, but I had a female who turned pro in physique after skin removal surgery, and he put the scars so they're all hidden by her posing suit. It was really remarkable, and so you don't see any scars on stage. And
that's smart.
She had quite a bit of skin removed.
This is one of my clients, Gunner. He's done fantastic. He's prepping for a show right now.
That's impressive.
Wow. He looks like a legend.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's
and he had an excision surgery done too, and it turned out great.
Talk about changing somebody's life. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, he's a hard worker.
So I want to point out so that this is one of those things where the guy who was 300 and went down to 180, he actually started as a cubicle worker, and at the end of the prep, when he was 180 and won the show, he gotten 5 promotions and was in charge of a facility that had 300 cubicle workers.
That's awesome.
His pay got tripled, and of course he got a girlfriend, and then she kind of wrecked his life. But the point was, well, that's the thing is, no, but it's not, when you don't grow up with women, you don't know what a good one from a bad one. That's the thing.
Exactly.
So you'll end up getting victimized by a bad one because you're vulnerable. So that's one of the things is like caution. You might get too hot. It's one of those situations.
It's an interesting take about what our appearance does too for us, even economically, or as becoming an alpha male, right? He said that he got 5 promotions and tripled his salary, and it's just amazing what it can do in that respect. I mean, I noticed that when I first started taking anabolics as well. Like everybody just looked at me differently.
Your confidence goes up as well. Yeah,
it's a polyfactorial thing. It's not just vanity or the opposite that people respect you more because you're better looking, but there's a stigma attached to obese people that they're lazy and they lack self-control, right? Whereas the opposite for someone who's shredded or loses the weight, this person has discipline and that they're not a glutton and they're hardworking, right? So would you rather give the promotion to someone who's lazy or someone who's hardworking? Even though it's your subconscious bias. Then you add to that he was so regimented, he had an alarm to go to bed when I wanted to go to bed. He had an alarm for every meal. Like he was 100% meticulous. And to this day, I've never met anyone as meticulous. So then he could take that discipline that he developed in order to achieve the goal and apply it to all aspects of life. The discipline is one of the most important qualities of a person. And so by losing 100 pounds or 120 pounds in this case, he developed so much discipline. The discipline was more of a factor. Plus, the positive reinforcement he's getting from people, as opposed to negative reinforcement, builds up confidence and self-esteem. And then the confidence and self-esteem makes you a better leader because people want what you have, so they're more likely to listen to you. So, and then this is exponential and synergistic. This isn't just linear progress.
Right.
Here's another one from that guy that's my client, Gunner, but he's 7 weeks out right now.
Yeah, looks great.
Yeah, and
you never imagined that he was that overweight.
You can see they did a fantastic job on his. Yeah, you can even see it.
Yeah, it's hidden by his trunks. It's awesome.
Yeah,
and he's got calves.
Yeah, and he's also got glute lines in that side symmetry. You can see his glute lines.
Yeah, we're in pretty good
spot.
One
thing we're seeing though that I was going to say with people who've lost a lot of weight, it's thick skin's kind of always an issue.
Yeah,
and even after they remove skin, it's still not pulled like as tight as it would be if you've never had loose skin. So he said he's got some glute lines, but he's still going to have thick skin over it. It's like a deflated balloon. You fill a balloon up and you can see right through it. You deflate it and it's completely opaque.
Yeah,
they're kind of even. No matter what you do, they're going to be a deflated balloon from their previously peak size.
You just got to get
really build more muscle.
Yeah, that's right.
Muscle solves everything.
There's your next
really
teacher, Justin.
Yeah, because
muscle solves everything.
You never have enough
more muscle. Yeah, I mean, when you do like full body lifts on people who've lost a massive amount of weight, like their skin is forever changed, as you noted, and a lot of it is it lacks that tensile strength that it once had, especially as we age. So you take a person who is past 40 who has lost a lot of weight, their skin will never fully tighten back up. But the more you can do to have internal pressure against that skin through muscle building, like the better that skin's going to look. It's never going to be like a person who had never been overweight, but you can certainly make it a lot better. And we typically have patients who are considering skin removal surgery, be it their happy weight. You don't want to take skin off of somebody who's stage lean, because as they regain even a normal body fat percentage post show, it can look unusual and you could end up having to do revisions in the reverse. So you want someone to be, I would say, within, for a woman within 20 pounds, for a man within like 10 to 15 pounds of their body weight, of their ideal, like maintainable body weight before you do the surgery, not on the extreme of either end, like with a lot to lose or a lot to regain for the best aesthetic outcome.
Yeah. That's
Okay,
interesting.
that makes sense. Like if you're doing it for quality of life, not just to win.
Yeah, and you want it
that
to
makes
look
sense.
good all the time.
It's a snake like silk hybrid.
Not real snake skin.
No. I mean, I'm a big proponent of Save the Snakes. I'm part of their organization, so I had to go with silk.
Gotta represent.
You
You don't care about silkworms?
A Vegas lawyer.
No, I hate hookworm. I hate silkworms. I tried to find skinks,
Miami Vice
skinks
extra.
leather, but
It was
apparently
just a
they're
little
dangerous.
longer. You'd be straight out of the 70s.
All right, folks, I got to wrap this up. I got a wedding to get to later on. Appreciate you. Thank you guys for coming on.
Thanks, everybody.
Another
Thank you.
week
See you
of
later.
madness. Amy, thank you for
Bye.
putting up with us.